made the determination based on data that that is a way to make sure they're protected, their loved ones are protected, and that's an extra step given the transmissibility of the virus.
But there are at least 8 states that actually prohibit their districts from requiring a mask in schools. So what are parents who have children in those schools, in those states, supposed to do?
Well, look, Caitlin, I'm happy not to live in a state where that is the guidance.
Good luck is the message from Jen Psaki and the Biden White House. And the CDC, which is so out of answers now, has fallen on its face with the coronavirus, with their coronavirus approach, that they are now saying, sorry about that. Sorry about that, Caitlin. It sucks to be you. Good luck. They have, this was a cluster bleep in the White House press room today, and with good reason. We knew their messaging has been absolute mierda. They've been terrible from the beginning. They've been going back on themselves here and there. They've got all these octopus arms of messaging, so many of them are sometimes competing with each other between Fauci and this and that and this and that. And now the Delta variant is, it's spiking in the sense that the Delta variant spiking, but still it pales in comparison to the original pandemic. But this is a mess. And what they've done today by saying, we don't know what to do, but you have to put masks back on. The kids have to wear masks. This is unbleeping believable. This administration has repeatedly done the unbelievable and the unacceptable. And now this, to me, is such an F up. I don't even know where to begin. But people aren't going to do this. You know, I spoke to...
I'm not going to do it. Are you kidding me?
No. And by the way,
I'm done with masks.
No, Alice is on vacation in an undisclosed location, so she sounds a little bit different or looks a little bit different, and I'm here alone, abandoned by my family. It's so weird. I've got,
just Tom and the chickens.
I've got nothing but chickens. I have nobody bothering me. It's like I've been in prison for so long, Alice. You're still in prison. That I leave. I'm still protecting my waters and things as if the kids are around, and I'm still like pushing food on the top shelf because in case the dogs try to eat all of it. It's weird. I've just got this prison, like having to guard myself and my stuff thing still going, even though the place is empty. But yeah. So today I had on the radio show Bethany Mandel. She said that she had heard that she has friends in L.A. who said that even though the moron there told everybody that they were drunk drivers and that they couldn't, that they had to mask up and that they were locking down this and that, whatever, that she saw very few masks. So I hope that I would hope that the pushback from this, although Alice, looking at social media, I see people saying, thank goodness, we never should have stopped masking anyway. I hope that this is a refutation of this order immediately. I hope it's loud and people say, no way. And I would love to see in the next 5, 10 days, 2 days, this White House say, you know what? We thought better of it and we decided not to torture people anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so, but I don't think they're going to back down from this because it's too popular with their core constituencies. It's the food is in the oven, but it's not ready yet. You can't touch it.
It's coming soon, buddy.
Time. Yeah. I'm getting complaints about the food situation. But this is popular with their constituency. Their constituency loves this mask thing because the problem with vaccines from their perspective is that it's really difficult to tell who's had one and who hasn't. So they can't like publicly virtue signal and know, you know, who's a good person and who's a bad person, unless they're lucky enough that somebody dies of COVID and their picture gets plastered in the paper, and then they can freely judge that person for not being vaccinated. But, you know, when they go to the grocery store, they don't really have a way to know who's vaccinated and who's not. And they complain about this all the time.
Right.
So, there, 1 second.
I also think one of the problems is that they're still in this position. Public health people are still in this position, and they've done it to themselves since the very beginning, that in lieu of saying, we don't know, they say we know. And they make a proclamation or a finding or make a suggestion or a policy, a health policy, based on just playing defense, based on caution. And sure, if you're a public health official and you don't know, sure, maybe you'll have people hide away. We don't know what's doing this. We don't know what's causing this to increase. So we'll just have you hide away. But they're not saying we don't know. They're saying, okay, hide away. But there's so much disparate information coming in from these people. I mean, they say, yeah, there is a risk still that you could carry it and you could transmit it. Even if you've been vaccinated, if you've had the disease and you've been vaccinated, there's still a chance, they say, that you could still carry it and spread it, though a small chance. Well, what kind of small chance? Is it a small chance worth mentioning, or is it not worth mentioning? And you're just trying to build almost this an unpenetrable wall of evidence to cajole people into getting the vaccines. So it's like we don't want to. Everything we say must be dialed up to 10. So that we can push people into doing this thing and getting the vaccines, and that's it. And you saw 2 weeks ago we were calling Facebook killers and saying that that people had that the social media companies had to step in line, and also saying that people were being killers. The only pandemic left, they said, was for the pandemic of the unvaccinated, and now we're at okay, since that group over there isn't getting vaccinated, the whole class has to stay behind after school now. And not only is
it's group punishment until everybody complies, right? Because obviously it wasn't bothering the unvaccinated people enough to, that they weren't being hassled at the grocery store, the unvaccinated people. So now we need to do the mask thing again. I don't care. I'm not putting a mask back on. I'm not doing it.
I mean,
I'm just not going to go to places that require it.
Well, what if every place requires it? What if every place requires it?
What if Mass does the public health order again?
What?
What if Massachusetts does a public health order again? It has to be everywhere.
Alice, if unless somehow polling show, but in blue states like Massachusetts,
right now the CDC guidance isn't that. It's not that all vaccinated people have to mask. It's that you have to mask if you have an immunocompromised or unvaccinated person at home.
Unvaccinated person is anybody under 12 and most people under 18.
Right. But they don't know that at the store, whether or not I have an immunocompromised or unvaccinated person at home, so it's not, this new guidance isn't, although it may be interpreted this way in some blue states, it's not everybody has to wear a mask everywhere again, technically speaking. But I mean, yes. Is there a chance that vaccinated people are going to catch it and spread it? Yes, we've known this all along. It only reduces your chances of getting symptomatic illness by 90% or whatever for the Delta variant. So, but that's still pretty good. And, you weren't guaranteed to have had the thing anyway. And you're also not guaranteed to die of it, even when that happens. Far from it. Now, I mean, I'm a believer in vaccines. I just am. So I got this vaccine, but I also expect to not have to be wearing a mask around because I got the vaccine now. So I feel safe and I don't feel scared of other people. I don't feel scared. When you go out, are you scared that an unvaccinated person might breathe on you?
No.
So that's why I got the vaccine. I now have peace of mind. I'm not scared of unvaccinated people anymore. So I'm going to go about my life and they can go about their lives. And if they want to wear a mask because they feel a compulsion to, then good for them. But I don't. I have no need to make any unvaccinated people do anything.
So let's go through some of this audio because the stuff with Psaki was absolutely remarkable that we saw earlier today. So here is first Joe Biden. Let's start with Biden, okay? This is Biden. He gets a question about federal workers being vaccinated, and listen to what he says in the tone that he uses.
Will you require all federal employees to get vaccinated?
That's under consideration right now, but if you're not vaccinated, you're not nearly as smart as I thought you were.
I mean, first of all, what is this? What is this?
Why is he so antagonistic?
Right. And didn't we yell at Trump for, speaking off the cuff when talking about coronavirus stuff? You're not nearly as smart as I thought you were. Yeah, why are you browbeating people? We get you've been rude enough. You've called people killers. You've been condescending enough to people. And this is how we're doing our messaging still?
Are you concerned that the CDC's new mask guidance could sow confusion?
We have a pandemic because of the unvaccinated, and there's so enormous confusion.
By the way, also, should you be blaming a pandemic on the unvaccinated? Ever? I mean, how freaking desperate do you have to be that inartful and irresponsible with your words?
Well, but here's the thing is that Democrats spent all last year blaming Trump, saying that Trump literally killed 600,000 people, right? Because he let the pandemic happen. And Joe Biden was elected at, the right moment in time where he came into office and it was already like on the way down. You know what I mean? So then at that point, he took credit for that. He said, see, it was my policies because I required masks on airplanes or whatever. Nothing things he did, right. That made the pandemic go away. So, but now it's back on an upswing because that's what happens. And these people are like witch doctors. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, see, you didn't do the sacrifice right. That's why the rains didn't come this year. They're all like, they have to believe in the masking and the vaccines and the whole thing. Vaccines don't mean nobody ever gets sick again.
Right.
It just means that you've reduced your own risk of serious illness or death a lot, and that's fine. But, I mean, it also prevents you from getting it a lot of the time. But, I think vaccines are good. That's not even the argument. But the thing is that, there's an upswing in cases now, and since they blamed Trump for letting the virus happen, they have to have some explanation now ready to go for why cases are going back up when Biden did everything right and got it under control, because they took credit. They said it was his leadership that made it go down. So how can it be going up now? Well, there must be some bad person out there somewhere, even though everybody's doing the exact same things they were doing when he came into office. There's no difference.
No, but there are a bunch of tweets that he had. This one's from October 30th from Joe Biden saying, I'm not going to shut down the country. I'm not going to shut down the economy. I'm going to shut down the virus.
Right.
Yeah. And it doesn't appear shut down as yet, or if it is shut down, it appears that he's being untruthful about how much it's shut down, but he's not done.
The more we learn about this virus and the Delta variation, the more we have to be worried and concerned. And then only one thing we know for sure. If those other 100 million people got vaccinated, we'd be in a very different world. So get vaccinated. If you haven't, you're not nearly as smart as I said you are.
Not as smart as I said you were. Who the hell's he talking to? Moron.
It's so rude. It's so rude. And most of the illness now is happening among unvaccinated people, but that's a decision that they made. You know what I mean? We don't force people to get vaccines.
Right. Yes, exactly. That's most of the illness. I looked at today, and I think it was 12,000 people died of the swine flu in 2009 in the U.S. And it was, of course, you didn't have to. It was spread by people coughing at each other, and still, we didn't have any masks back then. A couple of schools did close for a day or 2 days, but it was not extreme measures. And kids could also get the swine flu and died from the swine flu, but we still didn't make them mask back then, which we're doing now, which tells you this is not the science unless the science has radically changed.
Yeah, and the thing is that it really isn't, you're still going to have case counts go up because, like I've said to you too, we're testing so many people, including asymptomatic people, that, I've said it to you before, these tests are sensitive enough to detect virus that's already been broken down and killed by your immune system. Right. The viral RNA is still there. So when you do the PCR test and you're testing for the virus, you're able to detect it even though your immune system killed it. So that's dead virus, and you're not necessarily going to be able to spread it to anybody else. It's just
right.
The whole thing, like, so that's what's ridiculous about when they test these like asymptomatic vaccinated people at the Olympics or whatever, and then they tell them they have to go home and they can't play. It's like insanity. That's so when you have like, and then it's cases are going up. Well, yeah, cases are going up, but the only people who are really at risk, beyond a risk like that, you have risk from anything. Like you have a risk, you take a bigger risk getting in your car every day. The only people who are really at a more than acceptable risk are people that have chosen not to get the vaccine. And at this point, it really was a choice not to get the vaccine. So like, I don't know, but we let people do that. If somebody's going to ride a motorcycle without a helmet, like they know there's a risk to that.
But it also seems like
we don't like not treat them then when they get to the hospital because they rode a motorcycle without a helmet. Like it was dumb of them, sure, but like
I also think right. At some point, what can you do? At some point, we're done. We're done. Okay. At some point, bon voyage. We did what we could. But also, how much of this is? And you mentioned the PCR tests. How much of this is the fact that this is so historically big at a time that is for many people? This is for everybody. This has been an incredibly pressure, stress-filled time. It's totally strange. It's unfamiliar to anybody on Earth right now. This global pandemic, having been through this. If we went through one in 5 years from now, we would have been there before. So we'd have kind of we'd be conditioned a little bit to the challenges and emotions that it brings. But this was totally new. I think a lot of people just simply have wigged out, and a lot of people who have very comfortable lives in this country, including healthcare professionals, were not ready. They were not ready for this much instability in their lives, this much uncertainty in their lives and on the earth, and they weren't ready for the incredible amount of responsibility that was on them. The thing stopping the Black Swan event pandemic from killing a dozen, 2 dozen, few hundred, few thousand, 500,000, more than 500,000 people, that was them. They were supposed to be doing this. They are supposed to be doing this, from the people on the front lines to the virologists, to the people in the FDA and the CDC, etc. And I think that it's that huge burden, that mind bleep, that total mind bleep, has caused these people to look more granularly at the viral load, at this other data, than they ever would for anything else. And nobody wants to be the person who signals the all clear. So yes, they're finding the tests are picking up the old dead virus, but they want it to. They don't want they don't want to recalibrate the test so that they don't. Nobody wants to be the person who says, "Oh yeah, these are good to go," and nobody is that person. They are addicted.
Well, that's why the CDC recommendation, though, is that vaccinated asymptomatic people just should not even be tested. Like they shouldn't, because you're picking up virus that is not a risk. And at some point, we need to look at hospital utilization. We need to look at deaths. You can see from the numbers in Israel and England that they also had like a spike in cases, but the deaths stayed very, very, very low. Were they zero? No, they weren't zero. But I mean, like, getting to a world of zero COVID cannot be the goal. That can't be what we're talking about here. I mean, because we have lives to live. We can't sit here and wait until nobody ever tests positive for COVID ever again. Right. That can't be the world. So you look at countries that are roughly as vaccinated as we are, like England and like Israel, and you're seeing that they did, yes, have a spike of Delta cases a little bit earlier than we did, but they managed to decouple that from deaths and hospitalizations through vaccination, which is the goal. Our hospital utilization right now is not high. I know there are all these psychotic doctors telling scary stories to newspapers that are printing them because it gets clicks to say a bunch of young, healthy people are all dying of COVID in the wards, and you're holding their hand and while they regret not getting the vaccine. But it's insane. It's just not statistically true. And we have to at some point stop fear mongering with very low risks at people. We need to go back to what the press did wrongly a year and a half ago when they said, like, statistically, this is not likely to happen to you. So you need to move on and breathe and live your life and do the things that you want to do, which is what the press was saying last January and February, that they were wrong about at that point in time because the risk was not low at that point in time. But now that we have vaccines, if you went out and you got vaccinated, your risk is very, very low. Or if you are, 20 years old and in good shape, your risk is very, very low. So you should feel comfortable to go back to your life without living in fear.
So let me ask you a couple of questions, Alice. The PCR tests are being phased out at the end of the year. I've heard a lot of people say that because they can't differentiate virus
No, that's wrong. That's incorrect.
Okay,
So-
this is what I'm running it by. Don't yell at me.
Okay.
Just running it by.
Okay. That's incorrect. The PCR test, the CDC PCR test that the CDC developed is being phased out, not because it can't differentiate between flu and COVID, but because there are now so many approved PCR tests through private labs and other sources that it's not necessary anymore. We do not need it. And in the same document, what the CDC says in that same document is that that the focus should be on having tests that include a test for both flu and COVID in one test. So that's where people are getting that it can't differentiate, because what they say in that press release where they say we're going to discontinue this test at the end of the year because there are plenty of other alternatives, plenty of other PCR test alternatives. It's just this CDC test that they're not going to do anymore because all the private places can now, like Quest Diagnostics, and everybody has their own COVID test now. That's also a PCR test. It can tell if it's COVID or the flu. They're very different viruses, but what it says that's confusing to people is that it's saying that people they should be running a test where they can give people a yes or no on both COVID and the flu in one test. That should be the focus going forward.
Okay. All right, let's listen to some more. This is Peter Ducey with Jen Psaki.
You guys have been saying this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated. If that is coming from the CDC, is the president satisfied with the leadership at the CDC right now?
The president is satisfied with the fact that they are continuing to look at public health data and provide public health guidance to the American public about how they can protect their lives and the lives of loved ones around them.
And if
That wasn't a affirmative answer. That wasn't the president is satisfied with the leadership of the CDC. I get the feeling that he is absolutely not satisfied with the leadership of the CDC, that they're making him, and I don't even know if they got in front of him, but you heard White House press people saying earlier today that this was going to happen. So I don't know who leaked it, but Biden can't want this. I mean, this is something that you've got to talk to your political people about as well, because this is huge. To throw the economy, throw the country in reverse. I mean, we haven't done the economy quite yet, but throw the country in reverse. That is a big move, and that should be, if just politically, that is something you would roll out in a totally different way rather than just jerk people around like this. You are asking for trouble when you pull something like this. I mean, just like with you, and I talked to, like I said, Bethany Mandel, and you, and the two mothers of multiple kids said, I'm effing done. I'm done. I am done with this.
Yeah, I'm not doing masks anymore. I'm sorry, world. We're not going anywhere where we have to wear a mask. And like, if that means we have to withdraw from some stuff in the world, then like, fine. But like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to. I mean, like, if I have to get the groceries delivered, I will, but I'm not putting on a mask.
Right.
So I'll go to the grocery store without a mask for as long as they'll let me. But if that's the alternative, like, I'm not putting one on anymore.
The funny thing is that you go to the grocery store. If you go to the grocery store without a mask, you're really. What are we pretending here? You don't have the coronavirus and you've been vaccinated.
Right.
Why should that even be a thing? There's so many.
The idea is that I could like have like a weak coronavirus infection and have like not bad symptoms, but could pass it on to my unvaccinated kids and kill them.
Right. Okay. So, and then the foolproof masks, which absolutely work foolproof. We know that, which is why no doctor uses one when we're dealing with coronavirus patients. They use at least the N95. They don't use these pieces of crap that we have. Oh man, this is crazy. And by the way, there's no more shortage of N95s, and they're still not telling us to go get them. It's so disingenuous, this horse bleed.
A pandemic of the unvaccinated still, then why do vaccinated people need to put the masks back on?
Well, Peter, first of all, I would say again, just to go back to this chart, which I will handily point to again. If you are vaccinated, it can save your life. And I think the clear data shows.
Wait a second. If you're vaccinated, a mask can save your life? But I thought if you're vaccinated, being vaccinated saves your life.
Being vaccinated is much, much, much more likely to save your life than wearing a mask is. And what's more, this guidance, like, I mean, I know you have friends too, like I do, who are like against the vaccine thing. But the second this new guidance came out, all my friends who never wanted a vaccine are texting me like, haha, see, they're saying it doesn't work.
Right.
Literally. That's what all the people who are against vaccines are saying to me right now.
But Alice, that's what they're saying. They're saying it doesn't work. I mean, they're saying it in so many terms that you and I, who did our masking and got our vaccinations and felt like crap the second day, that you and I are equivalent to unvaccinated. Essentially, that's what they're saying.
Yeah, no. And that's why this messaging is terrible and sucks. Like, on top of being not really based on science either, as far as I can tell. As far as I can tell, they're just doing this as punishment and as to show that they're doing something, because there are places where they're spiking cases and they don't know what to do with that information. Plus, then they combined this with the school guidance, which to me is the most backwards, insane thing I've ever heard. That kids who are already at low risk, including vaccinated kids, including all those parents who went out and got their 12-year-olds vaccinated right when they were eligible, right? Like, they also have to still wear masks at school. That is just insanity to me, because with that messaging, I don't know, they're going to sometime probably around the end of the year, I'm guessing like November-ish, make this available to kids under 12 as well. Who's going to rush out and get it for their kid?
Nobody.
There's
Why would you?
Absolutely no benefit. They're already not at risk.
Right.
There's no incentive. They're not going to let your kid take off the stupid mask at school. Like,
right.
Why would you go get them vaccinated?
Right.
There's absolutely also zero incentive to do so.
Yes, and also with your kids who aren't going to be harmed by the coronavirus, you also have the consideration that the damn vaccine's not licensed yet. You know, for the kids, you'd like to maybe wait a little bit to see. And
well, yeah, I mean, like I have said, like we waited till probably like 100 million people had gotten the stupid thing. Maybe not 100 million, but probably globally 100 million. It was probably 50 million in the United States had already gotten the stupid vaccine. We looked at it, we're like, okay, well, people aren't really dropping like flies, so like seems pretty good. They're not really like coming. There was like the blood clot issue with the J&J and the AstraZeneca, which is that other type of vaccine. Like, okay, but that was still like a very low risk, whatever. Now that they've rolled out the Pfizer to the 12 to 19-year-olds, I mean, it's not a zero risk. They are having some heart issues that do seem to be more prevalent in young men in particular. And the younger they've gone so far, the more they've had those issues. And they haven't really come up with a compelling explanation. So it's going to be interesting to see when they come out with it for those who are even younger than that. I mean, it's still a pretty low risk. I don't think it's huge. But it doesn't seem to me that it's worth rushing right out to be the first one in line.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure, among other things, that they have the dose correct, because it doesn't seem like maybe kids need the second shot, and the risks for heart issues for young men are particularly high on the second shot. So, I mean, like, I honestly think the CDC should be saying right now, teenage boys should not be getting the second shot, because that's where it seems like most of the risk is. And it's not, it's likely that kids probably don't need it to have full immunity, so.
And so also,
We'll see,
when you
we'll
have
see what we see, but like I want to see like 50 million kids get it before I put it in our kids.
right,
You know what I mean? Like,
and when
just
you
to
have the
see what
woman that we
happens.
played in West Hartford last night who said, "Well, we don't know what this virus is going to look like if a child gets it 10 or 20 years from now." We also don't know what that vaccine is going to look like if a child gets it 10 or 20 years. There's been no long term yet to see the long term effects of this stuff. Let's get back to Ducey and Psaki.
That this pandemic is killing, is hospitalizing, is making people very sick who are not vaccinated. That still continues to be the case, regardless of what the mask guidance looks like.
The vaccines work, which this sign says that they do. Then why do people who have had the vaccine need to now wear masks, the same as people who have not had it?
Because the public health leaders in our administration have made the determination based on data that is a way to make sure they're protected, their loved ones are protected, and that's an extra step given the transmissibility of the virus that they're advising people to take.
Does not effing compute, in other words. She does not cite a reason. She says because that's what they said. Because that's what they said. Well, when they say something like that is not immediately not only logical but credible like that she didn't. Well, then that's why a chief executive like Biden has to say, "Thanks for playing, Rochelle. Now you can leave. Now we're not doing that."
Right. I mean, it's his job to sort the information and decide on the policy. And I think that this is a mistake. I was kind of like blown away today. There's been a lot of polling out recently, and I was like seeing a lot of different polling about a lot of different issues. And it's incredible to me because it seems to me that the Democrats have chosen like the worst polling side of every possible issue. And even though the media acts like it's not true, and like, I mean, I'm hoping people need to keep speaking out about this stuff so that the media and the politicians don't completely change the narrative on these issues. But like, this is ridiculous. The mask thing is done. It's done. If you're vaccinated, you're way safer than a mask can ever make you. Ever. And, if you choose to do neither, that's your business. It's not my business. And I don't care what you choose to do because I'm not scared of you because I am vaccinated and I don't need to wear a mask and I don't need you to wear a mask. That's just it. And then, so like that, and I think that this is going to be a problem. First of all, I think states aren't going to necessarily comply with it, like Florida or Texas. Mm-hmm. Second of all, I think a lot of regular people are just not going to comply with it at this point. I'm just not going to wear a mask. I'm just not going to do it. And like, if this goes on, if this stretches on years into the future, I absolutely will look into moving somewhere that is not going to try and make me wear one.
Absolutely, because Alice, unless we break this fever of panic, it's never going to end. There's always going to be a reason now. There are already mathematical reasons now, based on the current precautions we're taking for the coronavirus, to have us wearing masks more often for other ailments. It already makes sense because we will be a little bit safer. Let's go back to Jen Psaki's answer of Ducey on this question here. And listen to what she says, that the CDC says. There's nothing real tangible or meaty at all. It's just a feeling. It's just being cautious.
The vaccines work, which this sign says that they do. Then why do people who have had the vaccine need to now wear masks, the same as people who have not had it?
Because the public health leaders in our administration have made the determination based on data that is a way to make sure they're protected, their loved ones are protected, and that's an extra step given the transmissibility of the virus that they're advising people to take.
So in other words, Jen Psaki's saying the vaccines don't work. That's what you have to believe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she'd phrase it that way. But
no,
yeah,
she didn't, but that's essentially because his question was asked that way. If the vaccines work, then why do unvaccinated people have to wear masks just like vaccinated people? I mean, you know what I mean. Vaccinated people have to wear masks just like unvaccinated people. And she did not give an answer. She said because they'd be made safer. Well, if vaccinated isn't safe enough, then we're not truly vaccinated.
Well, right. I mean, there's stuff... I don't know.
Well, I mean, obviously, by that criteria that she just gave, then there's always a reason to always wear a mask. Always.
Well, right. I mean, and there's a reason to wear a mask in the flu season, too. Well, and there's a reason to wear a mask for lots of things.
Right. So how do we detach from this addiction, Alice?
I don't know how we get rid of the addiction. I find it really depressing that people are this stoked about putting masks back on, but a lot of people clearly are. A lot of people felt we never should have stopped wearing them in the first place. Right? Like there were people that were upset when the mask mandates went away, and they're happy that they're coming back. That's truly like how it is. And frustrating though it is, like I think though that this backtracking on the vaccine thing is I think it's a clarifying moment for a lot of people. Like, I think that this moment in time is the moment that a lot of people are now never going to get the vaccine.
Absolutely. Well, not only that.
I think that a lot of people, because the people that didn't want it before are now texting me, telling me, see, I told you so. They're never going to let you go back to normal. It doesn't matter that you got the vaccine. It doesn't matter that you got it, blah, blah, blah. They're going to, like, I mean, literally, I'm getting texted by anti-vaxxers saying, I told you so today. That was my day today. So, what do you think those people are going to now turn around and get it? No, this did more work to undo any confidence that people might have had in vaccines than like anything else I've seen an administration do. It's so frustrating.
Not only that, Alice, but any confidence in any public health institution as well. Ever. I'll never, ever. Anytime I used to write about the CDC as if they were something. Mm-hmm. As if they were something that, the people who kept malaria, away from us. These people are obsessed, bureaucratic robots. They're ineffective. They're wholly ineffective. It's remarkable that there's no Hippocratic Oath stuff happening here. They are happy to hurt everybody in order to ameliorate the problem, without full knowledge of how bad they're hurting everybody. The fact that suicides in the world are through the roof. The fact that we're missing kids now. Kids have just gone off of the grid, in big cities. We've got the fallout from our rolling the dice and holding our breaths here is huge. And we're going to find out just how big it is. Well,
they're just hastening the end of society here because this is not a tenable situation. Half the population, roughly, is saying, I'm never going to wear a mask again, screw you.
Well, right.
That's what's happening right now. And there are going to be a bunch of states where they try and enforce this. So people will either move or they're going to cause a scene.
Saki was asked about those states today.
And the CDC
the states that don't enforce it.
And the CDC is also going to recommend that children in schools all wear a mask, that everyone in schools wear a mask regardless of vaccination status. But there are at least 8 states that actually prohibit their districts from requiring a mask in schools. So what are parents who have children in those schools, in those states, supposed to do?
Well, look, Caitlin, I'm happy not to live in a state where that is the guidance. And this is new guidance that is being issued by the CDC today. I don't know how it will influence local elected officials in these states, but I certainly hope for the health and well-being of the next generation that they take a close look at the guidance.
Wow, this woman is poison. Sometimes...
Yeah, but I mean, since when is it even a school district's job to enforce CDC guidance, right? The CDC says you can't eat raw cookie dough, but if I send my kid to school with raw cookie dough in their lunch, their teacher's supposed to step in and stop them from eating it? There's all kinds of stuff the CDC says. It's not the school district's job. Everybody has access to the CDC's guidance, and the school district can, even in Florida, can recommend that everyone wear a mask.
By the way, remember, she says, I'm happy I don't live in a state where that's the guidance. Remember, you still have the teachers' unions now, and this isn't happenstance. The teachers' unions saying, you're not going to make us all get vaccinated. You're not going to make all the teachers get vaccinated. You're not doing it. So in lieu of that happening, we're just going to mask up all the kids. Which is a pretty damn jarring thing to know. The fact that the so little regard is given towards the students and all towards the teachers' unions. Right. Alice, respond to that for a second. The idea that the teachers' unions are not going to get vaccines, are not going to be forced to get vaccines, but instead, because the unions want their teachers protected, instead the kids have to do all the work and get a plunge in the arm and get whatever, and masks, etc.
Right. I mean, darn well that the that the kids are going to be required to get it in these states, but there are the same states that are completely beholden to the teachers unions and absolutely aren't going to make them get it. It's ridiculous. If the teachers are that scared of the virus, they should go get the vaccine, and then they should go on with their day and not be worried about what the kids have. You know, if you're a teacher, that there's little germy kids there. That's just life. And if you can't handle that, I think you should find a different profession. But I mean, I think what we're witnessing here is probably the death of public schools in much of the country.
I hope so. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Because I mean, like, although I mean, maybe the parents are psychotic and they're going to do it, because a lot of parents will just put a mask on their kid all day and not think twice about it. But I mean, like, is there some stopping point for parents? Is there some point at which they're going to say, like, you know, we're pretty low on cases and deaths and my kid is vaccinated and I've done everything you've said, and like, when do I get to take the mask off of them? Like, is there any point at which parents are going to say that, or are they just going to keep shrugging and saying, well, they get used to it, it's fine? You know, it's funny.
Alice,
I had someone ask me, like, if you know, if people ever get offended when I say, like, why I'm homeschooling, right? Because like, I'm honest about it, that it's like the COVID restrictions. I don't like them. I think they're ridiculous, and I'm going to homeschool my kid. Like, I mean, I don't usually use the word ridiculous. I just say, like, I don't think it's developmentally healthy for kids to, like, be under those kind of restrictions. I think it's much healthier for them to see other people's faces and be able to interact normally and be close to people. And, you know, so somebody said, like, but does that, like, offend the other parents? Because isn't it sort of like you're criticizing their choice when you say that it's not developmentally healthy?
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know if it does. Nobody's ever said that they're offended to me, but I mean, maybe I am. You know, I'm Serbian and we're, like, naturally kind of rude, but I mean, that's the honest answer. And, like, I'm not judging them for the choice they make. Not everybody has the ability to homeschool, but I just, like, I don't think it's developmentally healthy. And, like, I'm sorry.
First of all, Alice, the people that you're supposedly offending are silently and passive-aggressively look to offend constantly. Remember, hate has no home here means that it's not here, but it's there and there, next door neighbors. and also, they're happy to throw looks of shame at you and dial up Facebook and dime people out if they see kids without masks. And that's why, and Alice, I'm not religious like you. It's complicated with me. I'm working through it. Fine. But then that's one other tragedy of this, a man-made tragedy that's part of this, is that we have a pandemic, global pandemic, much, like the Spanish flu, except this one, we're lucky and blessed enough, believe it or not, I'll use those words, that this one, unlike the Spanish flu, spares kids and young people. It's a blessing. Can you imagine if we were showing, thousands of refrigerator trucks full of little caskets, what this would be like right now? So that is a part of this thing that has been, it's a godsend that at least kids have been spared. Can you agree with me on that?
Oh, yeah. And I mean, during the 1918 flu, that wasn't the case.
Absolutely. That's what I just said. Right. So exactly. So we are given this horrific black swan event that kills hundreds of thousands, more than 500,000 Americans, millions around the world, but that spares children. And somehow we've managed to ourselves victimize our kids with our response. They had been spared from this, but we're effing them with the way we've reacted here. It is horrific what we've done.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't have to go through this. And, like, I get it. Kids go through worse things. It's not a war or a famine. They're not dying. Like, I think, and, I've heard people say that, like, oh, kids are resilient. This isn't that bad. Kids go through worse things. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. They're not dying from this. But for the most part, I mean, suicides are up. But I do think that sorry, I'm getting distracted by goings on here. Stop.
It's okay. Let me play a piece.
But I think that the reason why this makes so many at least parents who are like us, so angry isn't so much that it's like the worst thing that could ever happen to kids. Obviously, like, wearing a mask is not like being sent to Auschwitz. But I think what bothers parents about it is that it's so unnecessary. It's not, this isn't something that had to happen to them. As you point out, they were never at serious risk from this. They're at much less risk from this than they are from like the seasonal flu. And there was never a reason to have this type of response that so punishes children when they're not a serious part of the spread of this virus.
Right, and some bureaucratic blockheads and cowardly, spineless politicians have effed them anyway. Let's play a little more Jen Psaki. Some of the reporters have had enough.
Today, they're changing their guidance. They're changing their advice to the American public, their public health advice, based on evolving data and an evolving historic guidance. That virus. That's exactly what they should be doing.
What is your message to Americans who are feeling whiplash right now? Why should they trust the same group of health officials who just 2 months ago told them they don't have to wear a mask anymore inside?
Because our goal is to save their lives. And our responsibility and the responsibility of public health officials is to continue to provide updated guidance.
Shut up. We're saving your life. In the name of saving your life, we're going to keep pulling 180s every few months, okay? We're doing something noble. The frigging hubris at this moment when we need this, I'm telling you, we need somebody to communicate who's got some credibility. Or I would say that you shut down the daily pressers with Psaki and turn off Biden and turn off Walensky and the Surgeon General, and I would go all high media. Have somebody write something clever and empathetic, somebody who's not a blockheaded politician or bureaucrat, and do it that way, because none of the messaging is working anymore. It's only hurting. By the way, okay, let me throw one last Psaki cut in here.
You said that the message for unvaccinated Americans has always been to wear a mask. But how concerned is the White House that the message that unvaccinated Americans will hear after this afternoon is that even if you're vaccinated, you now have to wear a mask in some settings, and then just say, why bother then on the vaccine?
Well, here's the good news. We're all here. You're all here. You've got millions of people and Americans who watch your broadcasts and watch your shows and listen to you to hear what they should know about how to protect themselves and save their lives. So our message to the American public is we are at war. We continue to be at war with a virus, an evolving pandemic. Our responsibility here is to always lead with the science and always lead with the advice of health and medical experts. And we're going to continue to provide information to all of you about how to protect yourself and save your lives. We're not saying that wearing a mask is convenient or people feel like it, but we are telling you that that is the way to protect yourself, protect your loved ones, and that's why the CDC is issuing this guidance.
We're at war, Alice. We're at war. So anything goes as far as our policies and giving you whiplash with our changes that we make and the emergency orders in all the states and, all of this stuff that we're doing and masking everybody. We're at war. That's what it is. We're not incompetent. No. It's just that we're at war. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Sorry, I just have to keep turning my mic down because a lot's going on here.
I see you're being harassed. Okay. All right, listen. So I'm going to wrap it up now. I do have a piece of breaking news for you, Alice. Mm-hmm. I hate to give you whiplash, but I have suspended my bike riding exercise activity, Alice, today because I was about a mile away from the house riding the bike down up a slight incline up. I was winded because I'm very fat and heavy, and your God has made it so that gravity is not equitable when it comes to me. And so I was winded, and so I'm on the side of the road with the bike. I'm just pull over, and I just stand there for a second to catch my breath so that I can continue up the road. A truck passes me, then goes hit at a stop sign, stops for a moment, takes a right, goes slow again. I'm like, oh wait, no, is he coming here? Oh, please, don't be coming here. Don't be coming here. He takes a right again, goes around this little rotary thing towards me. And I'm like, okay. If I had a 9mm at that point, I just would have blown my head off and said, okay, I can't risk this. So I'm like, okay, maybe there's a chance this guy wants directions. There's a chance he wants directions. He pulls next to me. He's about 85 years old. Okay, it's always the 85-year-olds who do this. He pulls next to me, 85 years old, and he just looks at me. And I look at him, and he says, "Are you all right?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I'm great. No, thanks very much. Just taking a break right here." He goes, "All right, you sure you're all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just taking." I was hoping. Anyway, so because people can't just F off and leave me the F alone. And this was like a few years back when I was jogging, when I get people saying, keep it up, big guy, come around. Where I wanted to point an ICBM, call in an ICBM airstrike on my own location just to end it. Don't ask me if I'm all right, okay? Unless I'm on the ground heaving, or the carrion are tearing me apart. Unless the vultures are tearing me apart, in which case, just leave me alone. Even if I'm dying, just leave me alone, okay? I want to die. I'm done here, okay? Ugh, people.
Thank you so much for listening. As always, I will be back hopefully tomorrow. We can keep getting our thing to work here. I can't hear the music, by the way. I don't know.
Can you not? It's going.
Down or off?
It's on.
Oh, okay. Well, you know what I think it is? I think it's when you stop talking, Zoom cuts it out.
Oh, okay. I'm still talking.
I can't really hear, and it's not working for me.
Okay, just say goodbye.
Bye.
See everybody. Bye-bye.